Today, I wanted to talk about the idea of social conformity and, in particular, a study experiment that was brought up in my cult recovery class that I just find fascinating. And I did have a request to talk about this. Always love the requests. And it's called the Asch Line Experiment. So basically, this was a scientific study. It was done and recreated many times. And so here's how it works. So in the experiment, there's a group of people and they're all in on it except for one person. And so the one person is the actual subject of the experiment. And the leader of the experiment shows the people one line and then three other lines. And they ask them which of these three lines matches the control line. And they're different lengths. And it's really obvious that these two match up, and this one is way bigger and this one is way shorter. And then they ask them, to choose A, B, or C, which one matches. And all of the people that are in on it say the wrong answer, right? The incorrect answer. And the subject, the idea of the experiment is, are they going to go with what they actually perceive, like the visual of what's correct, or with the group? And the results are that 75% of people conform with the group, even though it's obvious that their answers are incorrect. So the Asch Line Experiment finds evidence supporting the idea that humans will conform to and accept the ideas of others around them, even if those ideas are obviously false. People generally said the correct answer when they did not have a group of actors saying answers before them. So if they went first, or if they were asked in private, or if everyone else wasn't in on it, they would say the correct answer, generally. Nearly 75% of the participants in the conformity experiments went along with the rest of the group at least one time. Asch concluded from this that the stress of group pressure had distorted their perception. So two major distortions that happen. And I'm going to go through all the findings and then have a look at how does this apply to cults and high control groups like the one that I was in. So the two types of distortion were distortion of judgment. This was the most common outcome, where subjects assumed that their answers were incorrect after the rest of the group gave the other answer. So all the people went before them said C, even though they would have said A. They assumed they were wrong. So they're like, I must be seeing things incorrectly. So they changed their answers so that it matches the group. Or the second thing is distortion of action. So these subjects never doubted that they were correct and the group was wrong, but out of fear of being perceived as different, they suppressed their opinions and intentionally lied when it was their turn to give an answer. So interesting, right? I find this fascinating. So here's what they found. Conformity tends to increase when there are more people present. That's why groups and cultic groups of large number are so effective. However, there is little change once the group size goes beyond 4 or 5 people. So as long as it's a group, it's more, the results increase. It also increases when the task becomes more difficult. So as it gets more difficult to do this task, the chances that you'll look to what other people's answers are goes up. Conformity increases when other members of the group are of a higher social status. This is really interesting because when you see someone else in the group as more powerful, influential, or knowledgeable than yourself, you're more likely to go along with the group. Conformity tends to decrease, however, when people are able to respond privately. So that's an interesting finding as well. If you could keep it private, you may have your own opinion. Just a small example of a way that cults kind of enforce this idea. So let me back up. This is a line experiment about which line is the same, but the concept when you apply it to a cult goes with whatever their ideas are. So it's the leader is telling you let's say I'm going to use one from my cult, like you can actually change the physical structure of something energetically, or you can affect a result of something by like throwing energy at it. Or, I mean, there's a lot of magical thinking in this group. So it's sort of like a concept that you might not believe initially. And then you have a whole group saying that they believe that, or that they experience that, or that that is true. And they start to give examples of how it is true in their life. You may have started out not believing that, or seeing that you have a different idea of what's true, but then you're going to be more likely to go along with what everyone else is saying because of all of these reasons, like in this study. So, funny example, I was with one of the cult leaders one time, and I always get bitten by mosquitoes. Like if there's a group of people and there's mosquitoes, I'm the one that gets bitten. Like I'm just one of those people, right? There is in the cult, they had this thing that you were supposed to do where you just tell your body to like be yucky, like not attractive to mosquitoes, and then you don't get bitten. Like that was like one of their things that they told you was possible. So we were out somewhere, and there was a person that wasn't in the group at all, and me and one of the leaders. And this person was like, "Oh, I'm going to get bit by mozzies." They call them in Australia mozzies. And this leader says, "Oh, just ask your body to be an energy that is unattractive to the mozzies." And I was like, "Yeah, that never worked for me." And she was like, "Shh." Like she literally didn't want me to share that it's not true, which it's not. It never worked for me. And that's all I said. It never worked for me. Different opinions other than that of the beliefs of the group are not allowed in a cult. That's one of the other red flags that you're in a cult, not a group or a personal development group or a healthy group, but it is a cult because they actually don't allow you to disagree. You're not supposed to share that something didn't work, even if it didn't. And there were so many times that they exaggerated, or they embellished, or they literally just lied about something working that didn't work. So when the priority of the group becomes making the doctrine or the tools of that group true and real, and that they work above any kind of actual results and data, or you know what shows up, when the priority shifts like that, you have to wonder, like, why is it that we're supposed to tell this person that this thing works when we have evidence to contradict that? Because it's not actually about looking at evidence and looking at reality. It's about the group and getting the cults and doctrine out into the world and get people believing it. And again, with all the social conformity, you have these well-proven experiments that people will go along with the group. They will do two things, remember. They'll change their perception so they actually believe that they're seeing what the rest of the group is seeing, even though the rest of the group in this case are actors. They believe they were wrong, and that their judgment is distorted, or they secretly know that they're correct and that group is not, but they won't speak out, and they will intentionally lie because they don't want to be perceived as different or go against the grain. So I see a lot of this happening right now as I'm being attacked by this cult and its members on a daily basis. And this idea of like what I'm saying and what they're saying are two different things. And like whether or not they experienced what I've experienced and what so many people are speaking out and they're saying that they experienced, maybe this person never experienced that. And that's fine. But also, in a lot of cases, they did, but their perception of it is very distorted. So they've actually seen and witnessed the same thing that I've seen. For instance, the leader abusing someone, but their perception of it is twisted. So, and in order to conform with the group, if they're going to choose to stay in that group, they're going to conform their perception to match the group, right? They would have to leave the group in order to have the autonomy to say, what I saw was abuse. What I saw wasn't empowering. What I saw wasn't strong talk that's like designed to help someone. What I saw was, or even with their financial program, like so many people have lost money. So many, like the majority of people are losing money, but then you have like one or two people saying you can make tons of money doing this. And it's like, okay. So either their judgment is distorted or they actually secretly do believe something different than the group, but they will lie about it. So another thing that you'll do, because you're incentivized when you're in groups like this to tell really positive stories about the group and help recruit people. That's part of what they do, is like you're always supposed to bring more people in because that's the only way they can keep growing or keep at least not going under, is by bringing more people in all the time, because people are always like leaving. So the other thing is that you will intentionally lie about the ideals, like whether they work or not, or whether you're making money or losing money. You'll intentionally lie in order to conform to the group and not be perceived as different. So think about how this study, and I'll link to it in the show notes, the Asch Line Experiment and social conformity. I mean, we all want to believe that we have a whole lot more willingness to stand up and be different than the group. Studies just don't show that. 75% of people will conform with the rest of the people around them, even if they didn't agree with it initially. Social conformity is a really strong factor in reality. And like, yeah, you think you're an individual and you would just have your own opinions and be so different and all of that. But ultimately, a lot of us don't really have that that level of difference. And I didn't for many, 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 many years. And I would not say that that's like completely changed, although leaving a cult and speaking out does definitely require a level of non-conformity. But I think that I would still fall for that line experiment, except that I know that it's an experiment and that they would be actors. But something like that, it's human nature. Like, we're social beings. We just are really highly motivated to go with the crowd for a lot of survival reasons. And hopefully I can get on an expert that talks about some of this stuff and how it works in the brain, because learning how the brain works, not that I know that much about it, but even the little bit that I've learned has really helped me to understand why some of the weird things that we do like that are actually like a way to stay safe, a way to be safe. So if you don't go against the group, you're safer in general. So that can maybe be helpful in understanding why some of these things happen and why maybe you got your perception distorted while you were in a cult, and you really don't see it for what it is until you do. And then it's really hard to unsee. So that's one of the things, like, it's hard to go back to not seeing something like this. It's like the man behind the curtain. Once you know there's a man behind the curtain, you can't unknow that there's a man behind the curtain. So hopefully this helps to, wake someone up and see some of the different interesting human nature things at play, and how social conformity can have influenced your perception when you were inside a group.